73rd Ordinary Session of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights on behalf of the members of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. Apologies are extended for the late start of these proceedings. This ordinary session is convened in terms of Article 64(2) of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and is special for two reasons. The first is that this is the first ground session of the Commission since COVID broke out across the world. It's also a special session because whilst the holding of the session is an annual event that state parties to the African Charter, national human rights institutions, and African and international human rights institutions and the public in general have been accustomed to this. This 73rd ordinary session is particularly significant in the history of the Commission. In the course of today, a celebratory tone will be presented in this particular session. Today, the Commission celebrates 35 years and its anniversary of the establishment of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. We'll now start the official opening of this session. Your Excellency Badara Alieu Diouf, Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia, Your Excellency Professor Ismaila Madior Fall, Keeper of the Seals, Minister of Justice of the Republic of Senegal, representing His Excellency Macky Sall, President of the Republic of Senegal. Your Lordship, Justice Hassan B. Jallow, Chief Justice of the Republic of the Gambia, Your Excellency Dr. Monique Nsanzabaganwa, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Honorable Remy Ngoyi Lumbu, Chairperson of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, Excellencies, Ministers of State Parties to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, Honorable Vice Chairperson and Commissioners of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, Ambassador Salah Hamad, Acting Head of AGA-APSA Secretariat, Ms. Meimuchupa Lauriston, Deputy Regional Representative, East Africa, Regional Office of the United Nations, Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Dr. Elasto Mugwadi, Chairperson of the Network of African National Human Rights Institutions, Ms. Hannah Foster, Executive Director of the African Center for Democracy and Human Rights Studies, distinguished guests, distinguished delegates of state parties, to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, representatives of organs of the African Union, representatives of national human rights institutions, representatives of international organizations, representatives of non-governmental organizations, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor and my pleasure to welcome you to this opening. My name is Lindiwe Kumalo. I'm the acting Secretary of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights and the Master of Ceremony of this occasion. The ceremony will commence with the African Union Anthem. In that regard, I kindly request Your Excellencies, representatives of state parties, African Union organs, and all organizations present here to assume a solemn posture as the AU anthem is played. Of the Commission-elect Honorable Lita Musiimi Ogana. This will be followed by a statement delivered on behalf of NGO's Steering Committee by the Executive Director of the African Center for Democracy and Human Rights Studies. Following that, there will be a statement by the chairperson of the Network of African National Human Rights Institutions. Then we will have a statement delivered on behalf of the European Special Representative for Human Rights by the European Union Ambassador to the Gambia. This will be followed by a statement from the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. At this stage, thereafter we'll continue with a statement of the African Court on Human and People's Rights delivered by the acting head of AGA-APSA Secretariat. We'll then also have a statement delivered on behalf of state parties to the African Charter. This will be followed then by the statement of the chairperson of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. We will then have the honor of listening to the statement of the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission. After this, we have a short interlude. We will then have an address delivered by our commemorative guest speaker. This will be followed by a statement delivered on behalf of His Excellency, the President of Senegal, by the Minister of Justice of Senegal. And finally, His Excellency, Vice President of the Republic of Gambia, will deliver a statement and formally declare the 73rd Ordinary Session open. This will bring us to the end of the opening ceremony. At this juncture, I now invite Honorable Lita Muslimi Ogana to kindly step forward for her swearing in, which will be administered by Honorable Remy Ngoylumbu, Chairperson of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights.
Solemn Declaration. In conformity with Article 38 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, as read in conjunction with the Rule 9G of the Rules of Procedure of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, I, Lita Muslimi Ogana, solemnly declare to discharge my duties impartially and faithfully, done on this 21st day of October 2022 in Banjul, the Gambia.
Bonjour à tout le monde. La Commission africaine des droits de l'homme et du peuple, que je représente ici comme président, a pris acte de la prestation de serment de l'honorable Lita Muslimi Ogana et lui adresse toutes les sincères félicitations de notre institution et lui souhaite plein succès dans son mandat. Merci.
Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia, Professor Ismaila Majufal, Keeper of the Seals, and Minister of Justice of the Republic of Senegal, representing President Macky Sall, Your Excellency, Deputy Chairperson of the AUC, Dr. Monique Nassambu Ghana, my Lord Chief Justice of the Republic of the Gambia, Hassan Diao, Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice of the Gambia, represented by Mr. Hussein Tomasi, Honorable Chairperson, Vice Chairperson, and members of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. I would like to recognize the presence of the former Chair and Commissioner, Catherine Lupe Atoki, in our midst, Honorable Judges of the African Court on Human and People's Rights, Honorable Chairperson and members of the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, Your Excellency Ambassador Ahmad Sal Ahmad, Acting Head of AGA, Deputy of Department of Political Affairs, Peace and Security of the African Union Commission, Maimucha Lorenstein, Deputy Regional Representative, East Africa Regional Office, members of the United Nations family here present, Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, you know us, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, distinguished state representatives, venerable religious and traditional leaders, the chairperson and representatives of the Network of National Human Rights Institutions, representatives of national non-governmental organizations, representatives of international non-governmental organizations, representatives of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols respectfully observed. 35 years is indeed a significant milestone, a historic time indeed, whether it is in the life of any human being or any institution. It therefore offers an opportunity to contemplate over those remarkable moments that have brought success, as well as those other moments we might have been challenged, changed our course, or even be given another chance to journey on. In addition, 2022 is a year of milestones. We're talking about 20 years of the African Union, 20 years of the World Day Against the Death Penalty, 10 years of the Addis Ababa Roadmap, 10 years of the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, and 10 years of the Kampala Convention. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, time indeed ripe for the African Commission to pause, to reflect, and to get more prepared to take a more sober posture towards the encounters of the future, having been armed with the wisdom and experience of the past. Having been part of this remarkable journey, it is therefore my pleasure, coupled with a great sense of humility, that I stand before this august gathering of the African human rights community on this auspicious occasion of the 35th anniversary of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. Charged as spokesperson of the Forum of NGOs, charged with the responsibility to give a statement on behalf of all my colleagues of the Forum of NGOs in the work of the 73rd ordinary session of the African Commission. Before I proceed, permit me to request that we observe a moment's silence for those founding fathers and mothers of the Charter, those commissioners who have passed on, giants in those on whose shoulders present generation of commissioners continue to stand as we promote and protect human rights in Africa. In that same moment of silence, I would crave your indulgence to remember all victims of violence and conflict. As we speak, 70 protesters have been reported killed in Chad. Please, a moment's silence. Thank you. We remember particularly the first person, Mr. Isaac Ngwea, of blessed memory, under whose leadership the African Commission started its first foot forward. Allow me, at the onset, to extend our congratulations to the Honorable Chairperson, the Vice Chairperson, and all distinguished members of the continent's premier human rights institution as they celebrate and contemplate on the building blocks so far and future direction for the promotion and protection of human rights in Africa. In the same vein, we would like to recognize the dedicated and distinguished service of all past and present commissioners. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the newly appointed Commissioner Lisa Musimi Ogana. The forum wishes to also express its gratitude to the government and people of the Gambia, the smiling coast of Africa, for hosting this ordinary session. I will give a brief of the Forum of NGOs that was concluded a few days, and I must say that we were able to conduct 12 panels and also adopt resolutions on 8 countries, including Chad, including Eswatini, including South Sudan, and many others. The outcomes of that forum will be shared with the African Commission on Human and People's Rights and with all partners, interested partners. The situation of human rights on the continent remains very gloomy, despite positive developments, and all of that will be included in our report to the Commission. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it will be remiss of me not to extend the appreciation of the forum to partners who have accompanied us during the session, namely Open Society Foundations, IPAS, UNOWAS, and Office of the High Commissioner, both West and Eastern Africa of the regional offices, the African Commission, as well as those organizations that have sponsored delegates to the forum and commission sessions. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the African Center and indeed the participants of the Forum of NGOs, allow me to wish the Honorable Chairperson and all members of the Commission fruitful deliberations and a successful celebratory session. I thank you for your kind attention.
We may now have to reorganize our program to accommodate their excellencies. For this reason, I would like to reorder it to call at this point Her Excellency Dr. Monique Nsazabaganwa, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, to deliver her statement. Your Excellency.
Aliou Badara Diouf, Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia. Your Excellency, Honorable Minister, here representing the African Union Chairperson, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Senegal. Your Excellency, representatives of the member states of the African Union here present. Distinguished delegates of the member states of the African Union. Honorable Commissioner Remingo Yungu, Chairperson of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. Distinguished representatives of the organs of the African Union here present. Honorable Commissioners of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, members of the Diplomatic Corps. Distinguished representatives of international organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, representatives of national human rights institutions, and representatives of civil society and non-governmental organizations, standing on the existing protocol, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it's a great honor and pleasure for me to address your august assembly on the occasion of the opening ceremony of this 73rd ordinary session of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, on behalf of the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat. Indeed, this 73rd Ordinary Session is special because, as you know, it coincides with the celebration of the 35th anniversary of this commission. It also coincides with another milestone we were celebrating yesterday of handing over of the title deed of the headquarters of this commission here in Banjul by the Gambian government authorities. It should be recalled that more than 40 years ago, African states adopted a fundamental instrument, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, commonly known as the African Charter. This was in Nairobi on 27 June 1981 at the 18th Assembly of the Organization of African Unity. This African Charter provides for the establishment of a commission for the promotion and protection of human and people's rights on our continent. It's against this background that the African Commission on Human and People's Rights was established in 1987 as the leading independent regional institution for the promotion and protection of human rights in Africa. In this regard, I would like to use this opportunity to thank the government of the Gambia for its unreserved acceptance of the Commission from the beginning of its existence to the present day. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the human rights challenges still confronting us today show that the heads of state and government of the day were visionary and right to provide our Africa with its own mechanism for the promotion and protection of human and people's rights, to promote and preserve positive African cultural traditions, and to foster change where it's needed. Almost 10 in the aspiration in the Agenda 2063 adopted in 2013, which contains 7 aspirations. The third aspiration aims at an Africa of good governance, democracy, respect for human rights, justice, and the rule of law. The consultations for the preparation of this Agenda 2063, as well as the dynamism of the continent's non-governmental organizations and African civil society in general, show that human rights continue to be of particular concern to us, despite the significant improvements recorded since the adoption of the African Charter, as well as the establishment of this commission until today. Almost 10 years down the road, the African Union member states, the African Union organs, African communities, and citizens have embarked on a special project, that of evaluating the first 10-year implementation plan of the Agenda 2063 and building on lessons learned, gaps identified, the emerging issues, challenges, and opportunities, then come up with a new plan for the next 10 years. I'm inviting the African Commission on Human and People's Rights and all its stakeholders here present to actively get involved in this process. Your inputs, indeed, is highly valuable. Your Excellencies, while this is a time for celebration, the present commemoration must serve as a platform for discussion and exchange among all actors and stakeholders in order to carry out together an objective introspection and evaluation of the many contributions and persistent and emerging challenges that still remain in the promotion and protection of human rights on the African continent. In view of the persistence of armed and communal conflicts and constitutional changes in power, the effects of climate change, the economic recession due to the consequences of the COVID-19 and many other challenges, it will be necessary for us to grasp and understand the scope of all the opportunities that this Commission has offered us over the past 35 years, and to draw inspiration from its jurisprudence, principles, and guidelines, general observations, concluding observations, recommendations, resolutions, and declarations, which it has elaborated and adopted, and which are endorsed by the policy-making organs of the African Union. It's only in this way that we can identify new strategies, means, and programs with a view to optimizing our efforts towards the effective respect of human rights on our continent. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to remind everyone of us that the issue of human rights is at the heart of the African Union's policy. It's in this context that it has already adopted a strategic plan for the promotion and protection of human and people's rights for the period running from 2021 to 2030, which lays down important guidelines for the Union's overall policy on the promotion and protection of human rights. Member States, the African Union organs, and various partners should be guided by it to align their actions and comply with the principles contained therein. In concluding, allow me to thank again the chairperson of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights for his invitation to this August Assembly. I wish you all a very fruitful session and successful deliberations which contribute to the advancement of human rights in Africa. On this note, I wish also to wish all of us happy anniversary of 35 years of this commission. Your Excellency, Vice President, ladies and gentlemen, Thank you very much for your kind attention.
President of the Republic of the Gambia deliver his statement and declare the 73rd ordinary session of the Commission open. Will you forgive the reversal of protocols and sequencing in the circumstances? Your Excellency.
My Lord, the Chief Justice of the Republic of the Gambia, Your Excellency, the representative of the President of Senegal, Your Excellency, the Deputy Chair of the African Union Commission, Your Excellencies, Commissioners of the African Commission of Human Rights, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, honorable ministers here present, members of the National Assembly, members of the national human rights institutions, chairperson of the NGO Forum, delegates from the African continent and beyond, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Madam Chairperson, please allow me to congratulate the newly sworn-in Commissioner. Mr. Commissioner, congratulations. I stand here on the mandate of His Excellency, the President, to deliver his statement, and it reads thus. I must first and foremost extend my fraternal greetings and heartfelt welcome to the Chairperson and Commissioners and to all delegates for gracing this occasion. I was made to understand that the last time the Commission and its delegates met was 3 years ago. Welcome to Banjul and to the home of the African Commission. Madam Chairperson, notwithstanding the pandemic, the Commission has been able to perform its functions and has been meeting all in an attempt to resolve serious issues confronting the African continent. I must use this unique opportunity to commend the African Commission for the work it has been doing in the interest of creating a better Africa for all of us. You will recall that the Gambia government established the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission, that TRRC, through an act of National Assembly to investigate and create an impartial record of human rights abuses committed from 1994 to early 2017. In order to deliver justice, accountability, promote healing and reconciliation to all persons affected during this period. The TRRC has delivered on its mandate and provided a report to me on the 25th of November 2021. The entire report was made public 1 month after its presentation, and I directed that work on the white paper be commenced through a very consultative and inclusive process. On the 25th of May 2022, the government released its white paper on the report of the TRRC. The white paper represents the government's position on the recommendations of the TRRC. The white paper is unprecedented in the history of Truth Commission, given the reality that out of the 265 recommendations made, the government accepted all except 2. We are confident that as a government, we now have a clear roadmap towards reconciliation, justice reparation, and ensuring non-reoccurrence. The implementation of the white paper will see the introduction of broad-based reforms which the government intends to carry out. Enforced disappearances, sexual and gender-based violence were prevalent themes during the TRRC. The government wishes to underscore its commitment to implement the recommendations of the TRRC by investing more on education, research, training, and behavioral change. On enforced disappearances, this remains a matter of great concern to the government. Efforts will continue to be made to work with families and partners with a view to continuing the search and conducting exhumations on identifying sites to bring closure to the families concerned. Reparations for the victims of the human rights violations and abuses will continue to receive the attention of the government. We must, however, acknowledge that this will include huge financial outlays that may be beyond the reach of the government. We therefore invite our partners and the international community to render assistance and support in this regard. The reparations bill is being currently considered at the level of the National Assembly, and it will constitute an agency that will be victims-led to carry out the granting of reparations to victims. It would be recalled that the government had earlier made an allocation of $50 million to the TRRC to carry out reparations. An additional over $100 million was also placed in this year's budget in the expectations of commencing reparations through the proposed Reparations Act for victims. The TRRC process has revealed that we are a nation very much in need of healing and reconciliation. Government will continue to invest heavily to ensure the reconciliation of all Gambians, victims, perpetrators, and citizens of our country. In this regard, work is already underway for the establishment of a National Peace Council. We also recognize that accountability and justice must be pursued. The TRRC has outlined those it deems most responsible for the atrocities committed under the previous regime. In this regard, we are in the process of putting in the necessary mechanisms to ensure justice for the victims. To this end, we shall establish the necessary legal frameworks to try international crimes such as torture, enforced disappearances, and crime against humanity, being crimes that took place on Gambian soil. The government will not relent in its effort to ensure justice for the victims. The way has already been paved with the successful completion of the NIA 9 trial responsible for a brutal killing of Swallow Sandeng and the trial of a former junta leader responsible for the death of a former minister. We are committed to ensure a better and brighter future for all Gambians to live side by side in peace and security. And never again shall we permit the abuses under the former regime to re-echo on Gambian territory. As we celebrate the 35th anniversary of the establishment of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights in this country, it is worthwhile to recollect that the Gambia co-sponsored with other African countries the establishment of the African Charter on People's and Human Rights in 1979 for the promotion and protection of human rights and basic freedoms on the African continent. It was in recognition of this important role demonstrated by the Gambia in the adoption of the Charter that it was unanimously called the Banjul Charter on Human and People's Rights. It was in Banjul that the draft provisions of the Charter were negotiated and concluded before its final adoption by the authority of the heads of state and government of the then OAU, now African Union, in 1981 in Nairobi, Kenya. Our commitment and determination as a vanguard for promotion and protection of human rights as a country also led further to the establishment of the headquarters of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights in Banjul in December 1987. The Commission is a creation of the Charter, and it provides oversight and interpretation of its provisions. It should therefore not be surprising that the Gambia has a special affinity with the African Commission. Let me hasten to add that the Commission is independent. Members of the Commission serve in their personal capacity and make a solemn declaration to discharge their duties impartially and faithfully. This milestone event has also been complemented by national efforts in the establishment of the African Center for the Promotion of Democracy and Human Rights Studies through an act of the then Parliament. The Gambia, at a very early age in its development, laid very strong foundation for the respect, promotion, and fulfillment of human rights. In 2017, Madam Chair, and for the first time in the history of this country, the Gambia established a National Human Rights Commission under my government. The Commission has been fully operational and continues to play a significant role in the promotion, respect, and fulfillment of human rights. It participated meaningfully in the monitoring of the last presidential and National Assembly elections. National Human Rights Commissions are by their nature independent and effectiveness specifically placed on hold governments accountable and promote and advance human rights as well as serve as agents of change. An effective National Human Rights Commission is therefore a strong and a solid pillar for the entrenchment of democracy and the rule of law. There is very good reason why national commissions must ensure their continuous compliance with the Paris Principles and jealously guard their independence. We are proud today that our National Human Rights Commission has gone through an accreditation process with the Global Alliance of Human Rights Commissions, which provides international benchmarks against which national human rights institutions can be accredited. And the Gambia National Human Rights Commission emerged successfully with an A status. The accreditation will undoubtedly enhance the credibility and confer international recognition, as well as participation in the work of Human Rights Council and other United Nations mechanisms and processes. The Commission is also an integral part of the network of African national human rights institutions. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the African Union's theme of this year is the Year of Nutrition. Strengthening resilience in nutrition and food security on the African continent is indeed highly appropriate and relevant. We are witnessing today very high prices of food as well as oil and gas. The COVID-19 pandemic is taking its toll and imposed numerous problems on us all. And now we are witnessing the Russian-Ukraine war, which has triggered off increases globally in the prices of food, oil, and gas, with the hardest hit being the oil importing countries. These developments have also been compounded acutely by existing problems on the African continent. They cut across the whole continent. We recognize under the Constitutive Act of the African Union that the scourge of conflict in Africa constitutes a major impediment to the socio-economic development of the continent and the need to promote peace and prosperity. Madam Chair, why is there that ceaseless conflict between principle and practice, between ideal and reality, between development and conflict, whilst Africa's children are running naked and underfed? It is high time the continent is the risk of conflict. It is high time the continent is the risk of hunger. It is high time the continent is the risk of coups. The khaki boys with their AK-47s have had their say, and it was no less better. The providence of the future does not lie in the barrel of the AK-47, but in strong institutions, sound policies, implementable programs. The guns in Africa has to go silent. National interest precedes and supersedes individual or political expedience. Madam Chair, on that note, I have the singular honor to declare the 73rd Ordinary Session and the 35th anniversary of the African Commission on People's Rights here in Banjul open. I thank you.
Are you worried about the delay in the delivery of your remittances? Jamono Money Transfer is your only solution with more than 9 years experience in remittances services. It's accessible, reliable, affordable, and convenient. Jamono Money Transfer is affiliated with Ajay Guaranteed Trust Bank Limited, Mega Bank, Apps, Reliance Bank, and many others. You can send and receive your monies from friends and families both home and abroad through Jamono branches at various strategic locations in the country with high standard customer service. Please walk into any nearest Jamono branch for efficient and timely service delivery. For more information, you can visit its headquarters at Bursubi, right opposite AfriMed International Hospital, or call on the following numbers: +220 3103 050, +220 3103 051, or +220 3755 522.